Hello and welcome to Mystery Simon Theater 3000. I'm Simon, and in this show, I'm going to be showing you my VHS collection, 3 tapes at a time. The first tape is going to be chosen randomly with a random number generator. The second tape is chosen by my co-host, who today is Johnny. And our third tape is chosen by a guest. This episode, that is Aaron Colter from the Clinton Street Theater. Did I say that right?
Yeah.
Yay!
Wow.
Clinton Street Theater.
We're going to be doing that a lot.
Yeah, cool. Welcome on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do at the Clinton Street Theater and all that good stuff.
Yeah, so myself and 6 other people bought the Clinton Street Theater in April 2022. The old owners just had taken care of it for about a decade, and then with the pandemic and everything else happening, they wanted to move on, and so volunteered there for almost a year, learning how to program films, work with the different studios, and then couldn't come up with the money to buy it on my own, so got some friends together, met some strangers, and we bought it, and we've been running it ever since. Myself and one of my other co-owners, Susan Tamara, we've done most of the programming, but then going into next year, into 2024, it's all very collaborative. So all the staff and the owners, we get together on a Slack channel and we talk about what themes we want to do. And then we all throw out like, okay, well, in these themes, here are our picks. And then you vote, and kind of what we hope is the best films kind of come out. And really excited for January and our February programming, which is on our website right now. And I think it really shows a much broader number of movies. They are maybe getting a little more esoteric because we're all film nerds and we're all like, yeah, that's what we want to show. So I don't know if people are going to come.
I think of the Clinton Street as being like you already show a lot of like niche movies. So it's like, it's very like, I'm already like really impressed with the programming that you've had there, you know, for the last, well, like at least while you've been there, but like since I've been in Portland for sure.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And we were chatting before just a little bit about, you know, how you came into this theater. But what you mentioned now, just like what you've learned about like programming movies for like a movie theater. And what we talked about was, you know, like there's a lot of like licensing involved, but maybe could you share just like some strategy that you've like you learned in terms of like, you know, you have these themes and like sometimes you'll have a group of people or an individual put together like a whole series. Like what do you think is like something that surprised you in like learning that?
Just not knowing the different types of, I guess, like subcultures or groups, or just because something isn't important to me or maybe even the rest of the people at the theater, if there are people out there that are really dedicated or passionate about something, they will bring an audience. So the best example I can give is a couple people came to me and said, we want to show Twilight. And I was just a little too old. I've never seen any of the movies. I've never read any of the books. And I was like, you know, I don't know, I guess. Like, are you sure people are going to come? And they said, oh, we'll sell it out. I guarantee it. And so I was like, you know what? If you sell it out, I'm going to give you like this huge cut of the ticket sales because I don't believe in this, but you do. And yeah, they sold it out. And so they were like, we want to do all of them. We want to do like one a month. And we did. And every single one has sold out. And so I think that's, yeah, there's just.
I'm not surprised. Like I'm around a lot of youths, and even just knowing how like I'm sure we're all relatively the same age, like how we feel about nostalgic like blockbusters from our youths. I'm around a lot of folks who are like relatively young adults who are just shamelessly obsessed with Twilight in a way that our age group isn't.
Yeah, and like they're funny films in a lot of ways, and a lot of almost like queer appropriation of the Twilight series, you know, because it's written in like a quasi-religious
Mormon, I think.
Yeah, and so, but yeah, the community is just like, no, we're moving past that, and we're gonna make it our own, and
it's very campy.
Yeah.
And I've actually also never seen the movies, but I've seen enough people talk about it, and I've seen enough like enough clips to understand that it is campy.
And people love it. Like we were showing maybe the second to last one, and I can't even remember the scene, but I remember being in the audience at the theater and, you know, people gasping and booing and cheering and, you know, the Edward versus whatever the guy's name is, the vampire versus the werewolf.
The dog.
Yeah. The hot dog man and then the sad boy. And, but yeah, there's just stuff like that where taking chances on other people who have other ideas outside of my own or outside of the people I hang out with has been really cool. And then on the flip side, the disappointing part is sometimes when you go to talk to film distributors or movie studios and they'll say like, no, you can't show that, or you can show that, but it's going to cost, you know, an outrageous amount of money, or we don't know who owns that movie anymore. You can try and show it, but you might get sued. Good luck. One of the weird things that I came across is, so Night of the Living Dead is basically in the public domain, but not the restoration. Because if
interesting,
yeah, so if someone takes the time to like restore a film, they own that new restoration. So even films that have come out like 100 years ago, if you can find like a really poor quality of it, you can probably show it and get away with it. But if you want to show like the new 4K restoration with the original score, you have to license it from the people who do that.
All right.
But Night of the Living Dead is one where like technically it's in the public domain. The restoration is owned by someone. Dawn of the Dead, I cannot figure out who owns the rights to it. And then Day of the Dead, I finally tracked down who owned it, and it's just like some guy in New York.
Just some random.
And he's like, oh yeah, I own the rights to this film and like Serpent Q. And I was like,
do you want Serpent Q?
Yeah, I was like, and nothing else? He's like, just those two. And I was like, I mean, those are both really rad movies. And I was like, well, can we show it? And he's like, oh yeah, you know, just, you know, give me a little bit of money and yeah, you can show it. And I was like, this is so wild, but thank you.
Cool.
Yeah. He was great to work with. And so we showed Day of the Dead.
That's awesome.
But not Serpent Q.
But not Serpent Q. We want to show Serpent Q though, because it's so weird.
Well, there's a quick way to lock down those rights, thankfully.
Yeah. Right on.
So if you're wanting to start your own movie theater, don't. Would be my
You heard it here first.
It's not as easy as it used to be, which means it's never been easy to own a theater and run a theater. But I'm glad people like you, and then you have this whole like community of people working together, having meetings.
Buy concessions, folks. Buy concessions.
Stop bringing your own candy.
I buy my Milk Duds honest.
Yeah, we chill our junior mints. We're a quality establishment.
There you go. There you go. Awesome. I love it.
So our first movie that we're going to be going through is 1933's King Kong. This was the first time that I had gotten to see the original King Kong in its entirety. I think it was also the first time that you had seen it.
Definitely. This is the only
that's right.
King Kong I've ever seen. I've never seen any other King Kong before.
You didn't know anything besides Big Monkey.
Yeah, there's just like this is a movie about a big gorilla and people in 1933 were afraid of this. That's all I knew.
Which is kind of impressive for sad reasons. But have you seen the 1933s?
I've never seen it in its entirety. I've seen clips of it.
The Peter Jackson one? 2005?
2005, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, I'm going to say something controversial. I don't like Peter Jackson.
That's fair.
That's okay.
I don't
That's
really
okay.
like his films, yeah. So I skipped that one.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I think I probably only like his like first 3 movies myself, so.
Frighteners is good.
Oh yeah, Frighteners is good. That's true.
But that's Michael J. Fox.
And it's Zemeckis.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm with you there.
So this tape was released by Johnny's new favorite distributor, the Nostalgia Merchant. who they
Peddling
released
in all fine nostalgia wares.
they released the copy of Citizen Kane that we watched.
Yeah.
And
Oh, yeah.
so what was the fun fact research that you had on them?
Just a fun. So I've said this on a few episodes now, so I apologize if you're watching and you've heard this. You can skip, but it is cool to know. So as you're aware, a lot of the studios used to own the VHS that would be rented out. Nostalgia Merchant was one of the, I think they were the first distributor to deal in privately owned VHS. So,
Whoa.
yeah, they were actually catching films that had been in public domain or that they could easily get the rights to sell for private ownership.
Very
And so
cool.
far, all of the boxes that we've encountered have like this double sealed edge, you got to open it from both sides to get a tape out, which dealing with all these tapes, I really appreciate.
Yeah, that's quality.
So many of them fall out of their sleeves. And so this is a pretty like decent shop job of King Kong on maybe the Empire State Building. It's not entirely clear, but it is one of the iconic scenes that I had already seen before. And let's see. We also got King Kong fighting a pterodactyl.
Yeah.
Is that what that is?
Yeah, that is.
Okay. Really impressed by all of the stop motion in here.
Phenomenal stuff.
And like this movie is pretty long. It's 105 minutes. I don't know what I was expecting also. Like it's not a long movie. It was just longer than I expected.
Did you say 105?
That's what this says. Black and white, 105 minutes.
Why did I think it was 140 minutes?
I don't know, but
All right.
It'd be very long.
I somehow thought this was almost as long as Scent of a Woman.
no. I don't think I would have liked it if it was that long. But the plot is pretty simple. And most of this movie is just like these really long fight sequences between King Kong and some like other prehistoric animals or animals and dinosaurs that are attacking humans. And all of the special effects in here are so impressive.
They really
Like
are.
if I had known that this movie was iconic for that, like I don't like what does that even count anymore? Like do people really know King Kong for making all of these like amazing action adventure sequences with like rear projection, miniatures, combining stop motion over actors over like stop motion pieces. It was just like pretty incredible. Like it looked like a lot of work.
Absolutely.
To pull off most of what happens in this movie, like a lot of work. But going into the some of the text that's on here, it just says like, so this is the original uncut version. So even the uncut version was still just 105 minutes.
Yeah.
The Eighth Wonder of the World, starring Fay Wray, Bruce Cabot, and Robert Armstrong. So we have the classic fantasy masterpiece about a giant ape captured on a prehistoric island who proceeds to terrorize New York until his final stand on the very top of the Empire State Building. It's one sentence.
There it is. They took log line seriously. One line.
Release date 1933.
I mean, can you imagine being around in 1933? Like movie theaters are a relatively new thing, and then you go and see this and just blows your fucking mind, probably.
Absolutely. I mean, even still, like there are aspects of this movie that are just totally we wouldn't see today. Like there are all sorts of extras like falling to like gruesome deaths. And while like it's not like you see like guts splattering anywhere, like usually that's kind of implied now in a lot of movies, but you're just seeing like, you know, these prop bodies fall like rag dolls like down, you know, this huge precipice. And I think Kong at one point kills a dinosaur by just like tearing its mouth open. Just like, you know, yeah, it's like very, very like gnarly. And
This dinosaur dies a saw death.
yeah, and every time he kills a new animal, he just like kind of like plays with it to make sure it's dead, and then he's just like, yeah.
That's why he's the king.
He's the king.
Yeah. Don't mess with the king.
Yeah. If you had to put this into one word.
One word? I mean, it'd probably be a phrase. But this movie is fuck around and find out is what happened to all of these people.
Yeah, absolutely.
And like really all of the white people in this movie. It's like, did they have to go to Skull Island? Like, no. Did they need to capture this specimen of wild nature? No. Did they need to bring him back to New York, where he almost immediately breaks out of his chains and goes on a deadly killing spree? I don't know why that director wasn't in handcuffs at the end of this movie.
Yeah. I mean, who could have seen it coming, though?
Everyone.
Yeah, exactly.
I would rewind.
You'd rewind it.
I'd rewind.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is definitely worth rewinding, worth repeated viewings.
Again, the special effects is just like a marvel of its time, and it's still just so impressive because those scenes are kind of long, but there are just a couple of times where like a person gets crushed by a dinosaur and you just see them in the mouth of the dinosaur getting crushed.
Yeah.
It's wonderful.
Yeah. Some great Foley and off camera screams.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, just to cap this off, if not anything else, one scene that's absolutely worth seeing in this movie is the main character, Fay Ray, who's played by Fay Ray, is being directed in this like close-up shot. She's never really acted before. And you just kind of get to see what directing looked like at that time, at a time where people are cranking an actual camera. You're not really capturing sound at the same time. And it's phenomenal. It's really
it's also
captivating.
It's setting us up for what's about to happen. It's like she's going through all the emotions, like synthetically, that we will be seeing like later when she gets kidnapped.
Yeah.
Spoiler, I guess.
Yeah. So
cool. Our next movie is 1992's Scent of a Woman. And this is the one that you chose, so why?
I think I misunderstood the assignment a little bit.
Nice.
I got the list of films and I, added some that I hadn't seen. And then I put Scent of a Woman that I had not seen until like last week.
Oh, really?
Wow. So I hadn't seen it.
I hadn't seen it.
You hadn't seen it.
I hadn't seen it.
Yeah.
So none of us had seen it.
But I
that's
knew
great. I love
Pacino had won the Oscar.
Well, we also know the hoo-ah. We've been doing hoo-ahs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We did like when I unboxed this in the last episode, I did the hoo-ah because Elaine did the hoo-ah in Seinfeld. And if you watch the like special
Inside
features, and as she's recounting that scene, like the line was like, "Oh, you look like Al Pacino." She had not seen Scent of a Woman.
Really?
Someone on set told her, like, you should do hoo-ah. And she had no idea what that was, but she knew it had to do with the movie. So she's doing an impression of an impression, and we are all doing an impression of an impression of an impression.
Yeah, I mean,
Until
anytime you hear, jokes about Al Pacino, before we were watching this, I was watching this film with my partner, and I was like, hoo-ah, hoo-ah. And I was like, oh, it's from this movie. I was like, it's not from Serpico or Dog Day After, like, it was that film, so.
Yeah. Okay, so we all went into this not having watched it.
Yes, but I'd also like to clarify, like, you did the assignment well. You picked a movie. You're here to talk about it.
Yeah.
Okay,
that's
good.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect.
That's all that we asked.
If I can just aim for B+, that's the story of my life.
Yeah.
It's a passing grade. You get a passing grade. Yeah, and this is probably one of the posters that was used. Like, it's certainly the image that I've always associated with this movie, even not having seen it. I've seen this poster so many times, especially like in the video store. I think my grandparents had a copy of this. They owned anything that won awards. It's my grandma would just describe things as, oh, it won awards. And let's see. This is from the director of Beverly Hills Cop.
Okay.
And it is the 1993 Academy Award winner for Best Actor. Goes to Al Pacino. A Martin Brest film. I didn't know that name. I wasn't familiar with that name. What am I thinking of? What did John Landis and Eddie Murphy do? Coming to America.
Coming to America.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was confusing. Anyways, so the back of the film, it says, an amazing film, intelligently written and movingly told. This is one of Al Pacino's best and riskiest performances, says Roger Ebert of the Chicago Sun-Times. So the logline goes, Al Pacino delivers the performance of a lifetime in this heart-wrenching and heartwarming film from Oscar-nominated producer-director Martin Brest. Hoping to earn extra money over Thanksgiving weekend, Charlie Sims, Chris O'Donnell, a scholarship student at an exclusive prep school, agrees to look after blind retired Lieutenant Colonel Frank Slade, Pacino. The innocent and reserved Sims is immediately thrown off guard by Slade's bullying and push personality. But Charlie is in for even more surprises when Slade takes off for a wild weekend in New York City that will change the lives of both men forever. Pacino won his first Oscar for Best Actor playing the bitter yet brilliant blind man whose self-destructive nature hides a deep concern for his young guardian, as well as an old-fashioned romantic flair that makes him one of the most endearing and unforgettable characters to ever grace the screen. Whew. That was a bit long, but that was really well written compared to some of the other ones that we've done.
Yeah. Yeah.
The film itself also pretty long.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I didn't feel its length as much as I thought I would, though. I don't know if anybody else felt that way, but I
don't think it felt the length at all. I thought it was really well paced, and even just like early on in my notes, just like this is a really, really wonderful script, and it's fun and hard to watch at times.
Yeah. No kidding. Yeah. Let's get into it.
Let's see. I made a couple of notes about the music, just like the opening credits I thought were, I don't know what I was expecting out of the music for this movie, but it was very pleasant. And I remembered it just being it was very inoffensive, yet just kind of like bubbly.
Effervescent dulcimer music. Yeah.
Very 90s drama for its time. I felt like that score could have been in dozens of other films or replaced by dozens of other film scores from the time.
Totally.
Yeah, and there was some, like when they're in New York in particular, there were some parts that just felt really like fantastical with the music that I wouldn't have associated with like a really serious drama. So that helped.
Felt a little Home Alone 2, like Lost in New York.
I was actually thinking the music is reminding me of the score from Beethoven.
Came out also in 1992.
All right. Interesting. That's funny. Yeah, I mean, it definitely has a lot of those plucky strings and yeah, the hammered dulcimer, really, really nice textures, kind of like adds to it sort of has a precocious aspect to it. And, you got the prep school full of precocious youth.
Are they though? Are they just...
Well, yeah, exactly. Chris O'Donnell is.
Yeah, he's from Oregon.
But Oregon.
Yeah, he's a hardworking boy from Gresham.
Yeah, from Gresham. Yeah, I loved that. I love that.
Parents own a convenience store.
I do think Pacino's character is a sympathetic character, but I still don't like him. Is that fair?
Yeah, and I think it's a movie that he shouldn't have won the Oscar for either. He'd been nominated like 6 different times. And I think it was one of those,
Oh, sure.
like Denzel Washington or Martin Scorsese, where like, they're like, well, we just got to give it to him at some point.
Mm-hmm.
And so why not this year?
Mm-hmm.
And somewhat ironically, Denzel Washington was up for Malcolm X and he lost Al Pacino. And in my opinion, Denzel Washington's Malcolm X is like one of the greatest performances in film, and he really should have won.
Mm-hmm.
And instead they were like, we'll give it to you for Training Day, which is not a good movie in my opinion.
That is unpleasant. That is just a very unpleasant movie.
But 92 was like a banger. I wrote down because I couldn't believe how many huge films came out that year. Unforgiven, The Crying Game, A River Runs Through It, Reservoir Dogs, A Few Good Men, Aladdin, Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Hell yeah.
Whoa.
Batman Returns, Last of the Mohicans, Army of Darkness,
Golly.
My Cousin Vinny, Porco Rosso, Twin Peaks Fire Walk With Me, Hard Boiled, Death Becomes Her, White Men Can't Jump, Candyman, The Mighty Ducks, Sister Act, Beethoven, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Far and Away, A League of Their Own, The Bodyguard, Basic Instinct, Wayne's World, Malcolm X, like we already mentioned, and Glenn Ross. And Pacino was also nominated as Best Supporting Actor for that film. So I feel like the Oscars were like, well, he's in here twice. Yeah. And he's been here 6 times before. We got to give it to him.
Yeah, golly. Yeah. That is a really...
And people talk about 1999 being the best year for films.
It was a good year for music, too.
Yeah.
It's a great year for music. Golly. So 92, doing it. I think one thing I will say about this movie is, obviously there are some open questions regarding representation in this one. I think our co-host last week, Melissa Bukta, is also co-host on a podcast called Citizen White Cane, which focuses on blind representation in film. I believe they have an episode on this one, so definitely go check that out if you haven't already.
And I guess Pacino said he had worked with people in the blind community to try and understand, and he had been training for the scene with the gun to how to actually take apart and put back together a 45. And he was working with a lieutenant or somebody. And the first time he actually got it right in under a minute, the person from the military said, "Hooah!" And he was like, "I'm stealing that." And that's where that came from.
Ah, okay.
One thing that I thought was interesting was just like how this movie kind of ends. You know, we're back at school for this weird kind of mock trial that's really putting no one of a certain income in any danger consequence.
Yeah.
And the speech that Al Pacino kind of like gives is really good. Like maybe not better than Malcolm X, not nearly at all, but it was still a really impactful scene. And what I thought it was so funny. I laughed out loud. I made you rewind it. It was the disciplinary committee is just like, we're going to be doing something to all the rich boys, but this nice young man who who chose not to rat out these rich asshole friends, which I also just like, I would never. You could not pay me enough to not sell these kids who degrade me.
Yeah.
Anyways, so we get kind of like this happy ending. There's a swelling of music, and then all of these young men erupt in just like a kind of silly, yeah.
Yeah, they're rooting for him the whole time. He just didn't know it.
We get the slow clap.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We got a slow clap.
Yeah.
And what I thought was so interesting was like you have like this eruption of just like joy and like cheering from the young men, and then there's a row of faculty, and they're like all men, and they're just like, I hope they know they're cheering the end of the boys' club. It's like you don't even need to get that much older. These kids just need to be like in college before they realize how important the foundations and sanctity of like protecting men become.
Yeah.
And something that I had been thinking about like while we were setting up, and I just like was looking at this box. It's like Scent of a Woman. Which is like it's not a theme. It's just something he brings up a lot is, you go blind, your other senses get heightened. And he just becomes this just like was bloodhound for mostly just women and their perfume. And I'm pretty sure like there's no, like, maybe I didn't pay attention quite enough, like deeper connection to the characters and their journey and like how they both kind of like saved each other over this weekend. And so just like the title just kind of struck me as sounds really nice.
It's an outrageously horny title.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the reason I think
he's an outrageously horny man
is it's based off an Italian film, which is based off an Italian novel. And in the Italian film, it is, like a captain and his aide, and they're going around, I can't remember which city, Naples or something. And the older captain is asking the aide, like, describe all the beautiful women that you're seeing. And the aide's trying to do it. And the old Italian captain is like, your descriptions are terrible. Let me describe how I am perceiving all these beautiful women by telling you how they smell.
Okay.
So I think it's much creepier in the original Italian, as most things are.
Yeah.
Creepier.
Yeah, I was going to say creepier or just Italian.
But that
yeah.
makes so like it wouldn't have felt as weird as this did, because like it is a really nice title. It does come up quite a bit, but it didn't seem important to the film.
Yeah.
This so-called Scent of a Woman.
I gotta admit, when you sent that over, the list of movies, I've heard of this film, and I kind of like just sort of always wrote it off as like, oh, Scent of a Woman's probably some like romantic film or whatever. I was not expecting this movie at all. So yeah,
there was almost like almost a complete lack of romance. There was just like a couple of flirting scenes, and I mean like a couple, like two.
The dance scene in the restaurant,
and then the flirting with the teacher at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
Oh right, he does
poli-sci
find
teacher.
love.
Yeah.
Just right at the end, they drop like one female character.
Really drop her in.
Yeah.
So in the original Italian film, I only know because I read the plot on Wikipedia. The captain travels to a city to meet another person that he served with, and they have like a suicide pact.
Oh, okay.
And so that's why he's doing it.
That's interesting.
And then he carries around like a letter or something about this woman that he had a falling out with. And at the end of the Italian film, he doesn't commit suicide because this woman, I think with the help of the aide finds her, and like she comes and re-enters his life and like saves him.
Whoa.
That does sound nice.
That's like, I think, yeah, the original was maybe more of an actual romance film. And this was more like, hey, Dead Poet Society did really good.
Yeah.
We're going to make a slew of these movies.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an odd one.
It's
a really odd movie.
I almost wrote that down during the opening titles, was like Dead Poet Society.
Yeah, definitely had those vibes, which I'm here for. I love me some Dead
I know
Poet
you do.
Society. Some prep school hijinks.
I mean, but this still was like a really good story. It was told really well.
Yeah.
Just not a romance, which is fine.
I think Philip Seymour Hoffman is maybe the best performance in the film. And it was his breakout role. He said later that he wouldn't have a career if it wasn't for this movie. He quit his job in food service after this movie came out because he started to actually land roles. So yeah, Philip Seymour Hoffman owes his career to Scent of a Woman.
Damn. Okay, I won't knock that haircut then.
Yeah, he played like an uncomfortable weasel so well, which is like I've seen him do it in so many other roles. He's just he was one of our best. He wasn't quite a character actor, but what he would do in supporting roles, I think, he's like kind of like what Toni Collette does for her movies that she doesn't star in.
Mm-hmm.
She's still like sometimes the best part of a movie.
Yeah. So rewind.
Yeah, I'd rewind it.
Rewind it.
You didn't ask me about my one.
Oh, what's your one word?
Oh, I didn't think of one.
Hooah!
The hooah is my one word description for this, because I've been quoting it for years.
Yeah,
and it is fun to do that.
Yeah, it is cathartic. Even
it's never not appropriate, I don't think.
At a funeral?
Yeah, in court maybe.
Your Honor, I'll be my own defense. Hooah!
No, you say that and the judge goes, hooah.
Nothing further, Your Honor. Oh yeah, so this movie also didn't have trailers. It wasn't that long, which was kind of disappointing. Like usually if a film is like closer to 3 hours, then it wouldn't have trailers, but
it's like two and a half
hours.
Over 2.5, yeah.
Yeah, but that's still like there's a lot of like there's like still quite a lot of tape you can
That's
put on
right.
this
We
floor.
just watched something that had 6 hours, 3 hours of tape on each.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so.
And like Lord knows how many Kevin Costner movies are in here that are 3 hours long. But what just strikes me as strange is because this is like it was such a popular movie. This one was printed after the Oscars happened, after Al Pacino won it. So why wouldn't I expected there to be some kind of like at least like one or two, dramas or.
Yeah, it'd be interesting
something.
to compare. We have 3 copies of this movie, and it'd be interesting to compare and see if maybe one of, like maybe the copy in the clamshell has some previews or something.
Oh, maybe if that one.
If that was in a video store. So
There.
yeah.
Yeah, I would rewind. If you had like one word or just like one phrase to kind of distill this movie, what would it be?
Gresham.
Gresham. Represent.
Max
Charlie
goes down there
Sims.
now.
Opening up a chain of plaid pantries.
Yeah, I don't know if I would rewind this, honestly. Like, I'm glad I watched it, but it is 2 hours and 37 minutes long. I think there are probably better Al Pacino vehicles out there.
Yeah.
You said one of my favorites earlier, which is Dog Day Afternoon.
Yeah.
It's a good one.
That's one that I find just completely. It just fills me with joy. Most of it, I guess maybe except for the Chris Sarandon parts, but and then like the actual last 2 minutes, I can't watch it. I have to turn it off.
Yeah.
Hooah. Hooah.
Is that your one word? I stole yours. So. Our third title is the A&E TV movie Tess. I believe this was 1998.
Yes, 98 adaptation of Thomas Hardy's Tess of the D'Urbervilles, which I mispronounced last episode.
I'm going to mispronounce it today. I might have been throwing some shade in the last episode when I read like who's this Thomas Hardy, and why isn't he just Tom Hardy? Or
yeah,
why do we know Tom Hardy but not Thomas Hardy? And I think I was making fun of it, but like this was I apologize to the estate.
Thomas
of the
Hardy knew what was up.
This is a great story. I think it started out like kind of rough because like it is a TV movie, and I joked because there are some trailers on here. They're all for like other A&E like miniseries.
One's actually for Pride and Prejudice.
Yeah, Pride and Prejudice.
Yeah.
And then when the movie started, like something about the way it was lit, or like the first, I don't know, like half hour just felt very.
You said it looked like a beer commercial.
It did. I wasn't sure if I was watching like another trailer or if it was going to be like maybe this last thing before the real movie started was a regular commercial selling me a different kind of product. I was just like, did it start yet? And you're like, yes, it started. I'm like, so I need like, this is a character now. And you're like, yes, this is a character now. And it just was not an easy transition into the story.
Too bright or like overexposed, like all the above.
It definitely had like a kind of like a soft focusy feel to it. Overexposed, a lot of like sort of like golden or like yellow lighting.
Well, this movie has a lot of yellow lighting that is, I don't know, it was never clear to me if it was trying to replicate the morning or the evening. It was just yellow.
Yeah, and I think it is a device. Like when I think back on the way that lighting is used in the movie, when things are going well for Tess, we see that lighting. When things are not going well for Tess, it's like gray, like slate gray.
It was brown.
Yeah, or brown. Yeah. Yeah.
And there's a bit where she's like an actual like potato farmer.
Yeah.
And like, and her, the people that she's with, the fucking landscape, the actual potatoes, everything is just brown and just like soaked in with dirt.
Yeah.
It's great.
They film him with that russet filter.
She was at Tuberville then.
Let's see. So there's quite a few log lines on here. So it is 2 tapes. Did not need to be. Each tape was about an hour and a half. So again, like we just mentioned, you could fit all of this onto one tape easily.
Yeah.
It was nice to break it up into 2 nights, but with the amount of tapes that we need to watch, it's like would have rather just gotten it over in one go. But there's a log line on the big box, and then each tape has its own log line.
All right.
I don't really know which one to read first. Probably the one on the big box.
Yeah, let's do the one on the spine.
Okay, so on the outside, it is one of the most perplexing covers. Another reason I didn't think much of this when it was first presented to me was like the cover just looks like it was really poorly designed. Mm-hmm. Or it looks kind of cheesy, the way I would expect.
Why is Stonehenge on it? Is that an important part of the film?
At the very end, yeah.
It is.
But this is what I would expect a TV movie like poster to look like. You have like the head of the main character floating over the body of the main character with then like you have this character here his photograph is just clipped in.
He looks evil. Is he the bad guy? He's
a bad guy. He's not a good guy.
The mustache gives it away.
But it's like you clip these characters out here, but you just kind of throw in his. It just like you thought it was intentional and
he's
appropriate.
A square.
Oh my god!
It looks like he's looking around the corner of.
Yeah, he creeping.
Yeah,
and his head is like the size of half of their body. Maybe that's just the top hat.
No, his head like it's. I don't know why you would do that. Even. Okay, I'll stop.
Someone designed it. Someone
designed it, and I want to dig into and scrutinize all of those details that no one else besides other designers would care about or find funny. Okay, so Thomas Hardy's Tess of the D'Urbervilles.
Yeah.
Okay. Thomas Hardy's immortal tale of love, abandoned, and virtue lost has captivated readers for over a century. Now the unforgettable intensity and tenderness of this treasured classic comes to life in a lavish new adaptation. Her luminous beauty blazing against the bleak background of rural Victorian England.
Her?
Mm-hmm. She wouldn't believe this either. She's very modest, very humble, very, I don't know why these men are obsessed with me. Tess Derby Field is one of literature's best loved and most memorable heroines. Violated by one man and forsaken by another, she refuses to remain a victim, but her struggle to endure, despite the abandonment of her true love and her desperate attempt to attain happiness, propelled Tess towards a tragic end. Powered by brilliant performances from rising star Justine Waddell of Anna Karenina and a veteran supporting cast, Tess of the D'Urbervilles captures the harsh realism and poignant beauty of a true masterpiece. All right, so tape number 1 says, when tragedy strikes her family, beautiful Tess Derbyfield seeks work at the estate of wealthy relatives, the D'Urbervilles. Young Alec D'Urberville is immediately infatuated with the alluring newcomer, and though she resists his attention, he overpowers her in the forest one night. Shaken, Tess returns home where she discovers she's pregnant. The child dies in infancy, and Tess must look for work again. She finds a position on a wealthy landowner's farm and falls in love with the handsome Angel Claire. Though he begs her to marry him, she refuses, but their love cannot be denied, and she finally accepts his proposal. Tess tries to tell Angel about her past, but he insists she wait until they are married. On the night of their wedding, they reveal their secrets.
Bum, bum, bum.
It was actually a very good cliffhanger.
It was.
Like by the time, like I said, like the first half hour, I was probably still making fun of it in my head. And there was a shift, I think, in the story where she comes back to her home after working for this rich guy who, you know, assaulted her. And she's fighting with her mother because her mother just expected her to stay there. And like, if this guy wants to marry you, he's rich. Of course, you should go back and marry him. And their fighting just, it kind of just like turns on a dime and gets very like real and deep. And she shouts at her mother, like, why didn't you warn me about men?
Yeah. Yeah. It's pretty incredible.
And after that, everything clicked.
Oh, yeah. There's another log line.
Another log line. That's one. This is two. It's this hard. Like both tapes are identical except for the log line. So I should just organize this better. Despite his own indiscretions, Angel cannot accept Tess's past. Right?
Hypocrite.
Yeah.
Right?
Does he think he can do better? He can't.
No, he can't. No. And he abandons her. Distraught, Tess flees into the wintry countryside to face an uncertain fate. But a chance encounter with Alec d'Urberville, now a preacher, offers her a way out of her predicament. You want to know more, don't you?
I do. I am. Yeah. So he went from assaulter to
assaulter.
Alec declares that he still loves her and convinces Tess that Angel is gone forever. Alone and afraid, she reluctantly agrees to stay with him. When Angel does return, Tess is desperate not to lose her final chance for happiness, resorts to violence in order to be with him.
Does she kill Alec?
Yeah.
Yes, kill your local rapist.
Tess and Angel spend a blissful night in each other's arms, but their happiness is fleeting. Soon enough.
This is a roller coaster of emotions.
Imagine watching it. Soon enough, the fugitive lovers are forced to face their tragic destiny. Oh.
Yeah. Spoilers, do they get put to death?
She does.
Tess does. And
I'll jump ahead and say that when
Tess did nothing wrong.
No.
Mm-mm.
When we first watched like the ending of this movie, I don't know if you're familiar with how movies like Fight Club are shown in China.
No, I don't
where
think so.
You get to the end and
then it's like this is
hard
bad.
cut to black.
Yeah.
Hard cut to black. Like Tyler Durden was arrested and in jail and like convicted of his crimes.
Yeah,
Like that's how the movie ends. This movie was kind of similar where they're kind of like fleeing into the night on foot. Like if they wanted to get away, they could have gotten away.
Like a horse, like they just had horses and they were like, nah.
No, they were walking, but they still had like several days like head start. They could have gone to Brazil.
Yeah, the book they spend like 5 days.
That is too many.
In this
house.
Abandoned manor, and
but anyway,
homeboy's just gotten back from Brazil where he's been farming. It's like
go back to Brazil.
It was so obvious. Like,
first of all, if you commit any crime, you have 3 days before you need to get out of the country.
Yeah,
so
there you go.
And this is back in the day where you could have just been like, I'm Tess Smith. Like, who's gonna know?
Right.
The crime was committed in a port city, and they fled inland.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Just so many things. Well, it ends with them like wherever they are on their like foot journey, they end up at Stonehenge, and that's where they spend the night. And then that's where they get surrounded by all these cops, and it's just she walks away with the cops, and then text on the screen is like, Tess was convicted for her crimes and hanged.
Yeah.
And I like same as the first tape where I'm just like, no. It can't end this way. Like I understand the tragic how this is supposed to end, but not like this. Like it was just, it was a hard curtain that fell over the screen.
Yeah, I think this was designed to be shown in a classroom, which is why we don't see anything like that. Not that I really would have wanted to.
No, I mean, like a couple weeks ago, we had just watched the Scarlet miniseries, and that ends with almost a hanging of the same time period.
Yeah, same kind of thing. But what is, I mean, this is where, Thomas Hardy, holy cow. So the reason, or one of the reasons he wrote this story is because he actually witnessed a hanging like this. It was a woman who killed an abusive husband and was hanged for that crime.
He was 16
he was
when he
16
saw it?
And he said like the rest of his life, it just like he was ashamed to even be there.
Few things that I wanted to mention just before we close it out on here was that like the costumes in this are amazing and impeccable, and the attention to detail. I'm no fashion historian, but even I can tell it went above and beyond like most, like anything you'd expect of a TV movie. But I think that's maybe just like what A&E, like the quality they used to put into the programming that they made.
Yeah.
If you want to look at that while I skim through this. Let's see. Oh, there's horse violence. That was pretty upsetting.
I mean, it's they're bookends. She accidentally stabs the horse.
Oh, but then
and then
purposefully stabs her husband.
Purposefully stabs.
I thought
her husband.
Oh, that's
Alec.
true. The man who's taking care of her. So initially, I described this movie as being campy. And partially because there is a narrator that pops in once in a while.
Yeah, this is the one critique. I think is a solid critique.
That has to be like a carryover from the book that just wasn't purposefully integrated into the script. Because it's
like an hour before you hear
him for the first time.
And you're just like, what?
Not even in the opening?
No.
Not even in the opening.
Weird.
Yeah.
That's why the cold opening was so confusing for me.
Yeah.
And I think he appears no more than 4 times, might even be 3 times throughout the entire movie.
And say a little bit more about this narrator.
Oh, that we actually see him
the
night of the wedding?
After he's just hanging out?
Well, it's this. So they just gotten married. It's the beginning of the second tape, and they both tell each other their secrets. It didn't go well. And then Angel runs off. Tess follows him. The narrator comes back in and mentions I remember the look on their face. And there's just this old guy in a top hat walking by.
Like a Christmas Carol.
I was like, you don't get to do
Jacob
that.
Marley
You can't
had
just
been dead for 4 years.
And it's not like he's a neighbor. They're at a house that they just rented. So he's a guy who probably saw them this one time. I don't know how he knows about her life before or her life after. But I just thought it was so stupid to keep that in.
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely, it's a strange thing to not only introduce a narrator so late, but then also for it to be this character who's around once.
I don't know enough, but is it maybe like a callback to British plays of the time that would have
could be
characters like that? Or
all I know is that it does. I don't think of it as being done well.
Yeah, it definitely felt like okay, could have used you at the beginning of this movie.
And to close it out, just at no point did I anticipate accurately or correctly where this story was going. Really surprised me at every turn.
Yeah. And
it made me sad.
Yeah.
But God, after the first tape, I was just I can't wait to watch the second one. I was so ready to watch the second one.
Yeah. Tess is just an incredible character. And I think we've said
I know the bar is low, but Thomas Hardy wrote a really good female character.
Well, yeah.
I'd rewind it. Oh, but let's. There are trailers.
There are trailers.
Yay.
There are trailers.
Sorta.
Pride and Prejudice, at least.
It's true, but they're all for other like A&E TV movies. The first one was, or felt like just a regular commercial for the A&E Literary Collection.
Just in general. Okay.
Bunch of other stuff. Pride and Prejudice was one of them. I don't remember a few of the other ones that were on there. But if you want to see the entire trailers or in detail what those trailers were, you should subscribe to our newsletter, my newsletter, at weirdwonderfulstuff.substack.com. That's where I put in all the clips, if there are trailers. After that was a spot just for Pride and Prejudice, the Colin Firth one, followed by the making of Pride and Prejudice.
They really milked all they could from that. Huh?
Yeah.
It wouldn't be the first time. There's so many like movies from around like the late 90s, especially blockbusters that are in particular The Mummy. It's like there was a trailer for The Mummy on DVD. There was a trailer for, I think, the soundtrack for The Mummy. And actually, I think it was for the DVD one, but it went into like you could watch the making of The Mummy. But that was it. Those are the trailers.
One word description.
No, this is a tragic story. Because like I think Tess is probably just one of the most likable characters that I don't remember rooting for a character this hard in a long time.
No.
And maybe because like she never actually got anything good in her life. Now it's time for the mystery part of Mystery Simon Theater. The tapes that I have to watch. Johnny, what do we have?
Okay. So we got 3 Christmas movies for Christmas episode next week.
Okay.
One's random.
Yeah.
And since it's Christmas, one's your pick.
Really?
Yeah. And then I picked one.
Okay.
All right. So we'll go ahead and do, this is the random pick.
Okay.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah.
A Christmas Carol. And if you can't see any good with that, it's the George C. Scott Christmas Carol.
Now, this was a little bit of my discretion because,
you know, I love George C. Scott.
well, in our spreadsheet, it only says Christmas Carol, but I think we have a few of them.
We have a few of them.
And so there is no distinction. Christmas Carol's in that list once, and there's no distinction. So, knowing that we both love George C. Scott, I chose this one.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Okay.
Next one.
All right. Next one. This is my choice.
All right. What I watched this today.
Our niece watched this today.
Yeah. When my sister told me that she had watched Jingle All the Way, I sent her a creepy Phil Hartman gif. Those cookies. R.I.P.D., buddy.
Oh, God.
To a real one.
Fuck you, Andy Dick. Yeah. Fun one.
Mm-hmm.
And we got Sinbad, too. Sinbad in this, right?
We also got Mickey
Yeah.
from Seinfeld. I don't know his name, though. But I'm pretty sure he's in this one, too.
All right.
All right. And you said this one was mine?
This one's your pick.
Is this my Christmas movie? Some people like to watch Die Hard on Christmas. I like to watch The Long Kiss Goodnight. Yeah, I love this. Life is pain. Thank you. Good night. Thank you so much for watching this episode of Mystery Simon Theater. Thank you so much to our guest, Aaron Colter of the Clinton Street Theater, which the website is pretty simple. It's just like cstpdx.com.
Yep.
Cool. Anything you'd like to plug?
Movies?
Oh, February 2nd, which I know is kind of far off. We're playing a film called Passing Through. It's this amazing movie about jazz and African liberation and white people kind of ruining jazz. But the film was made by Larry Clark, and he has very high expectations. And so he's never allowed it to be on any sort of home video or streaming, you can only ever see in theaters when he personally approves of it. And so we were able to get in contact with him, and he very generously was like, yes, you can play this film like one time in an audience where it's supposed to be seen, to be a part of community. And so I don't think it's ever been shown in Portland ever. And so I'm just really excited for an opportunity to have a film like that play.
Yeah, that's incredible. That sounds rad.
Remind us of the name one more time.
It's called Passing Through, and the UCLA Film and Television Archive and the writer and director Larry Clark are helping us show it. So really excited.
That's amazing. February 2nd.
Historic event. Go see it.
Unprecedented, even. Thank you so much. If you're watching this on our YouTube channel, please like and subscribe. If you are listening to this, you're probably already using your preferred podcast app of choice. But if you'd like to find us, we're pretty much available everywhere. And again, check out our newsletter, weirdwonderfulstuff.substack.com. That's where I will share like the tapes from every episode and all of the trailers from every episode.
I think YouTube is finally letting me put clickable links in our descriptions, so you should be able to find these in our video descriptions.
Yeah. That's how I found Melissa's podcast. Pushed from our description. Thank you and good night. I'll see you on the other side.
Bye-bye.